Testing, 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 testing. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Educated Collins Snap channel. How you doing? So finally, they have released the patch notes for this month. Basically, it seems they're doing currently one a month, and hopefully, this is a good one. Hopefully, this is like a major change because we've basically been having the same meta for around like a month and a half ever since the Zabu Surfer nerf. I really think this meta has been very similar. So hopefully they've made a couple of good changes, a couple of adjustments to kind of tone down the power level of these really important meta decks and give a lot of other decks room to shine, room to grow. Because right now, if you're not playing Thanos, Lockjaw, or some version of Shuri in the ladder, you're going to probably struggle. You're probably going to have some difficulty. So hopefully these changes, these adjustments adjust those cards, those power levels, and really tone it down to a more balanced state. And then there's also still some other things to be adjusted that I would be looking for. I'm not really personally going to say, oh, they need to change this or that. Let's kind of take a look at their actual changes and then go from there. So without further ado, we can begin here. So here we have the patch changes from Marvel Snap Zone. I tried looking at their website to get the changes, but it's not on their website yet, which is a little bit weird, but whatever. Let's go on. So patch highlights more tokens. So they are talking about the token changes. We've covered that extensively. So players who have not finished Series 3 will now earn 4x more tokens than before. That's cool. However, it does have the you can't unlock Series 3 tokens or Series 3 through tokens anymore. You basically have to focus your tokens on Series 4 and Series 5 cards. You will get one Series 3 card a month, which is good. So it's kind of very similar to the old system where if you didn't buy bundles, you would get one Series 3 card a month. But now you can't really speed up your Series 3 collection. You're kind of limited to that one a month plus collection level system. So that one is a little bit iffy. But overall, those are the particular changes. And now let's move on to some of the general updates. So we do have the series drop. So the series drop is now active. So Zabu Server, First Sean, Dazzler, Shadow King down to 4. And then M'Baku, Orca, Tuma down to 3. Out of those cards, the ones that jump out to me is nothing. Honestly, I don't think you need any of these cards to make a new meta deck. And with the current meta deck of Thanos and Shuri, these cards aren't really going to change that much. Zabu is somewhat playable. And then Atuma is somewhat playable in Shuri. And then Soren's a good card in those decks as well. So there are cards that aren't bad, but like you don't need anything here. It's not like you need any of these cards. So if you want them, you can get them, but they're not a big deal overall, in my opinion. Audio changes for a couple cards. This isn't like a big deal. It's I don't have audio on, so I'm not gonna hear it either way. But yeah, Thanos now have the VFX along with all the Infinity Stones. So that's good, I guess, if you play Thanos. All right, so balance updates. These are really what matters. This is definitely what I want to talk about. The unscheduled change to Zabu and Silver Surfer. Why are they unscheduled? Made the metagame shift for the Mastodons more difficult for us to predict, and we weren't able to make timely adjustments for technical reasons. Yeah, so the over the air changes that they were discussing last time, apparently they had bugs, so they really couldn't do over the air changes that they thought they were going to do. So maybe it made them take longer to make these changes. But since it took longer, now these changes have to be like more on the nose, right? So Hopefully, we do have better changes because of that. Thanos became one of our most dominant decks yet. I mean, he was very strong before the last change, right? Like before you buffed Thanos, he was already like the most dominant deck. So it's just weird how slow the adjustment period is my main gripe here, where metas can be strong for more than a week, but it feels like their data collection takes more than that to really adjust. Um, Shuri based decks, his weak matches versus Zabu and Surfer's been really holding the Mad Dog back, Titan back. I don't think he had that bad of a matchup against Surfer. You could argue that because Surfer was playing Killmonger, he had a bad matchup, but I mean, I guess you could argue that. Maybe that is a good argument. All right, that's fine. Shuri based decks were another big winner here. That's true. Both of these archetypes have exceeded our tolerance from game balance. This patch adjustment is aimed at restoring order and weakening each of them. Okay, so they're telling you Thanos and Shuri are going to be the main targets. We'll see. So Thanos is going from a 6'11 to a 6'10. Okay, that doesn't really matter, right? We're increasing Thanos' power. We increased Thanos' power in a previous patch that was built during a time where Zabu and Surfer were suppressing the success. We're happy to keep him at 9+ power for Shang-Chi, but given his recent success, we thought too appropriate to pull back on that buff just a touch. Yeah, I mean, why not make him a 6'9" then if that's what matters, right? So still feels like this is not relevant, right? So this changes whatever. Space Stone. Okay, what's Space Stone's change? On reveal, next turn you can move one card at this location to draw a card. So on reveal, next turn you can move one card to this location. Okay, so this does affect things. It means that you can't place Space Stone into the Lockjaw lane. Well, you can. I mean, obviously you can, but you're not going to get that, oh, let's move the card into a lane. Another thing this stops is the ability to win those unreachable locations, like Sanctum, right? You would play Space Stone, that you could move a card over to Sanctum, right? Like that was really powerful. Now you can't really do that. You can only move a card to a location. What you can do is play Space Stone into another location and move Lockjaw over, but that's definitely not as powerful as moving the Lockjaw into an empty location and then playing the stone. So it's definitely a nerf for Space Stone, in my opinion, because I think moving a card to a different location is stronger than moving a card to the location you put a Space Stone in. So it's a nerf, but it's not like that. That's not gonna fix Thanos, right? But it is a nerf, so that's something to see, to focus on. This is among the strongest stones in Thanos due to the ability to create. Yeah, okay. This change reduces efficiency with Lockjaw. Yep, that's true. And reducing the strategic objects for late game movement. True. We expect this to reduce the tactical flexibility of Thanos decks and make them more fun to play against. I don't know if that's true, but sure. Quinjet now reduces cost to a minimum of 1. Okay, so this is something we have talked about. Quinjet moving cost to a minimum of 1. I think personally, you might disagree, but I think this is an okay change because even though you could just make the stones not affected by Thanos, Quinjet's power was like so broken. Like this card was so good. Being able to get things for free is just such a very, very strong mechanic that sometimes your opponent won't expect. Right? I've seen stuff like I'm not paying attention. The opponent played like the hood into into Death's Domain or something, and I'm not paying attention, right? Like I'm not like staring at the screen. And then last turn, because they have a Quinjet, they play like 4 cards. They played Moon Girl earlier, and I didn't, and I didn't know they had a a demon or something, and then I'm just like, where the hell did these 2 power demons come from, or well, these 2 6 power demons come from? And I'm just like, what's going on? And then I have to like, oh, there's Altar of Death or Death's Domain here. He must have played a hood, right? But the game doesn't tell you the death actions. There's no match replay unless you have a tracker. So like that kind of stuff can happen, does happen, where if you're not like fully paying attention to every single turn of the game, which is like turn 1, right, where I don't think something crazy is gonna happen. You can definitely be caught off guard. So I definitely think the ability of cost reduction is just very, very strong. And I think this helps the game overall. Now you're going to complain there are some decks that just get hit by this, that your cards and decks that get hit by this that aren't related to Thanos at all, right? Like Maria Hill gets hit by this, and Hood, of course, gets hit by this, and there's a ton of stuff. But Quinjet was just crazy good, right? Like this card was a 1 mana, like give you 5 mana sometimes, give you 4 mana sometimes, even in non-Thanos decks, and that's just a really broken card, right? Like if you had that as an ability, that's just a so broken card that you would pretty much play in every deck if it made sense. So I think this helps make it feel a little bit less oppressive, in my opinion. So I'm okay with a change like this. Yeah, it also helps with Thanos. So cost reduction is powerful, and Quinjet is one of the few cards capable of reducing multiple cards' energy costs to 0. Yeah. While we enjoyed this interaction for some cases, such as the Hood Demon, ultimately created both an ongoing yeah, that's true, as well as fueling the dominant Thanos decks of today. So yeah, so it should be a meaningful deck to reducing the strength of Thanos decks across the board. Yeah, so let me take a look. So those are the only Thanos changes. So it's a Quinjet nerf, and then a Space Stone nerf, and then a Thanos base power nerf. I still think Thanos is going to be playable, right? So this isn't enough. Like this isn't a gutting of the deck archetype. But like I feel like you shouldn't gut a big bad anyway. So I guess this is fine. I still think it's going to be playable. It's just like you're not running Quinjet anymore, so you're just running another big card, or you're running some more small tools since you're running a ton of big cards already. So I don't know. Like, I don't know if this is going to mean you're not going to see Thanos decks. You're still going to see Thanos decks, I think. And people have become so good at playing Thanos. So it just might be relevant just to keep playing the deck because you have a lot of experience with it. So interesting change. I don't know. Like, I'm not going to tell you 5 seconds into it if this is still meta, like, or if this is still the best deck in the game. It seems playable. That's my interpretation. It still seems playable. I just don't know like where it's gonna stack up now, because you have to reevaluate it with everything else, right? Which is difficult. And then Red Skull. Okay, Red Skull is ongoing cards have +2 power to 5/13, so it's losing 2 base power, and ongoing cards have +1 power. Okay. So it's singularly aimed at removing the strength of Red Skull, Shuri, and Taskmaster. It also nerfs Dracula. I know that like they don't even pay attention to that, but Dracula did use Red Skull pretty effectively. Though I still think a 13 power Dracula is still pretty powerful. So I mean, I don't care that you're nerfing Dracula here. So outside of those interactions, this change will mostly buff for the base case usage of Red Skull. Yeah, you might just play Red Skull normally now, right? You can I feel like you can play Red Skull just as a 5-drop. I bet that's gonna happen a lot now. You're just gonna play Red Skull as a 5-drop because it's if there's only 2 cards, it's a 5/11 on the field, which is a lot of power as a 5-drop. 5/11 for 1 card. Even the worst case is 5/9, which isn't that bad. In best case, it's 5/13 or 5/12, right? It's a 6-drop in terms of power stats. This just seems kind of busted, no? I feel like you just play Red Skull as a normal card now. You don't even need to play it with um, with Shuri anymore. But I mean, it's still a 26 power with Shuri, which is really good. Hmm. Seems like a good card now. That you don't even need to play with Shuri. You could just play it normally, you know? I don't know if this is gonna fix Shuri either. Like, still playing a 26 power. You also like the opponent has less of a downside or the less of an upside, right? You used to get +8, now you're getting +4. So it's 22 power you need as a base, which is what you needed before. 22 power if you played 4 cards there, because you'd go 30 -8. Now it's 26 -4. So it's not like much has changed. Hmm. Does this solve anything? I don't know if this solves anything. All right, I mean, it's a nerf. Is it a nerf? Is it even a nerf? Honestly, I'm not sure. And if I'm not sure, that's not a good feeling for me to have. Hmm. Okay. I don't know. All right, let's move on though. I don't can't like linger here for years. She-Hulk's getting nerfed. Okay, I think this makes sense. She-Hulk is too strong. So I'm down for that. So it's just losing a power. I think that makes sense. She-Hulk is a key component of the strongest Shuri decks, but it sees why. Yeah, She-Hulk is in like every deck. Um, we mostly think that's cool, but she's far more powerful, or she's more powerful than she needs to be for those combos. We want to encourage playing actively the location rather than holding cards for explosive turn 6. Okay. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm okay with this change. I have no problems here. Aero 5/7 on reveal. Move all cards enemy play to 5/7 on reveal. Remove the last enemy card played to this location. Remove the last enemy card played. Hmm. So you just have to be very. You just have to be very careful. It's definitely a nerf. This is a nerf, right? Mm-hmm. It's not dead though, and they buffed Aero to a 5/8 back again. It still can mess like Galactus and stuff. It's just not as like as crazy. It's not as crazy. I definitely think you're gonna see less Aero with this change. You're gonna see less Aero. Like the decks it does well against have to be not flood decks, right? Like it will do little against flooding decks, and you also can't really play this turn 6, right? That reliably. Yeah, that's true. I mean, you can. I mean, if you know they're playing one card on 6, then yeah, you can. But a lot of decks flood, right? Especially with She-Hulk, which is still going to be viable. So you're definitely going to see less of it. I wonder, right? Like, I wonder if this is going to make it not as played, right? It's really hard to know. Arrow's a tricky card for us. The actual game balance of Arrow has been healthy. No. How can you say that? It's in like every deck. How can that be healthy? Okay, I personally think if a card's in every deck is unhealthy. And it feels like that. I don't think that. Right? Like same issue here with Shang-Chi, right? Shang-Chi is like in every deck. And I think that's a big problem personally. Like if you're designing a 12 card deck and you're like, well, got to put Shang-Chi in everything. Like you've messed up the balance of the game, right? Because you shouldn't have to do that. So I would not say the game balance for Era has been healthy personally. Um, she fulfills a vital role in our game by providing interaction, especially against dangerously polarizing cards like Galactus. It's important for Aero to be versatile and strong in order to be widely playable tech card, but we don't want her to pushing the majority of other 5 cards out of decks. Unfortunately, that's the behavior we're seeing. Aero can be frustrating to play, denying players the option to play their own Aero end games. Kind of like LEECH. I mean, LEECH does the same thing, no. This change seeks to keep Aero strong. They're not. Are they nerfing LEECH? They're not. No. Okay. Well, it's weird to make that as an argument then. This change seeks to keep Aero strong where she's needed. Festers more competition about 5 cost cards and adds counterplay by making her more fun to play against. Yeah, I don't know. I wonder if you're gonna see more. I wonder if you're still gonna see Aero, because this is a pretty big nerf. Because it means that if they play 2 cards, you can play around this in a lot of cases, unless they have to play the 2 cards in the same location. So it's definitely it's interesting. I can't tell you what this means for Aero. I just can't. So I guess I'm gonna just have to wait and see. Mystique, Absorbing Mat, and Taskmaster. These cards now require the previously played card to be in play. Oh, okay. So usually, before you could destroy the card, and then it would still, like Mystique, Absorbing Mat, and Taskmaster would still work. Now, if the card gets destroyed, it doesn't work. So this is a Shang-Chi nerf. I mean, a Shang-Chi buff, which is crazy to me. That card is so prevalent in the metagame. I mean, I don't think they're making this because of Shang-Chi, to be fair. I just think it just ends up being a Shang-Chi nerf. Like, I think this makes, like, game logic sense, because when you kill a card and then you play the Mystique or you play the Taskmaster, and the card you still just keep, like, the 30 power from the dead Red Skull. It's like, why is it like that, right? Like, you need a way to deal with the Taskmaster, so now you can kind of deal with it. The problem is, with a change like this, Shang-Chi is just like auto include. I feel in a lot of decks you would just auto include a Shang-Chi, and once again, I don't think you want to have a scenario where you put a card in every single deck, but maybe they just don't care about that. Maybe they're like, you know what? It's a 12 card deck list. Let's make it a 10 card deck list. Like Shang-Chi and everything, Aero and everything. I know Aero is getting nerfed, but like theoretically, that's what it used to be. And it seems like that's like kind of fine for them. So definitely a weird addition. But I think the change itself is good. It's just like the ramifications to the metagame, I think, is weird. Is how I'm looking at this, I guess. This adjustment is part balance, part matching expectations. The meaning chunk of Taskmaster's strength is the ability to cost a card's power, even though it's been destroyed by Shang-Chi. Yeah, that often gets reported as a bug. Hopefully, this change weakens Shuri deck slightly, and more meat cleanly matches players' intuitions. Yeah, it does do that. I think Morbius power no longer updates in hand and in deck. Okay, this is good, because if you were playing Mr. Negative, this would had weird interactions. Personally, like, it was just super weird. So I think that makes sense. I'm not gonna read it. Knull's power still updates in hand, but no longer updates in deck. Okay, so it's a buff for Mr. Negative. It's Mr. Negative buff. It still updates in hand though. Is interesting. The reason for this is that it's very important for Knull players to be able to quickly and precisely calculate his power. They're like, players are dumb. That makes sense. No, it's not players are dumb. It's that they don't have a destroy tracker in the game. This is more of a like, we don't give you enough information to precisely calculate his power, right? Because if you had a destroy function in the game, then you could track the stuff. But since you don't, how would you, like, unless you're fully paying attention, how do you fully like at a glance know what's destroying the game? You can't check it. So this I say players are innocent. Sorry, I'm not players are not dumb. This is a second dinner problem. What they don't give players enough information to precisely calculate Knull's power at a glance. So that's not on you guys. That's on second dinner here. As a placeholder adjustment, Null will no longer update his power index. So it is a Mr. Negative. So his functionality with Mr. Negative will be the same as his fellow ongoing cards. Notably, he will use his potential power for effects like the peak. Okay, so it's still weird with the peak until you're able to make the desired improvements. That's a trade we've decided to accept for improving the general use case of Null. All right, that's fine. I think it is hard to do both, right? Because you would have to have it not be affected by the peak, but then still show you the power some way, which means they would have to completely update like some math or some mechanics, which feels a lot harder to do. Widows by text only. While this is in your hand, cards cannot in your deck cannot be drawn. Is while this is in your hand, you can't draw cards. So this is a text only change. I have drawn cards with while Widow's Bites in my hand though. So I don't even know if that's true. I have drawn cards while Widow's Bites in my hand. Or I've been able to add cards. Maybe that is the difference. You can add cards. Widow's Bite inaccurately describes in-game effect. That's true. While we consider updating the effect of Widow's Bite only to prevent drawing your own cards, we've ultimately decided it was a better experience to just simplify the text. Better experience for who? For our programmers. I feel like there's like a parentheses. Better experience for our programmers. Covia, to just simplify the text and keep the current effect rather than create these edge cases. I mean I don't mind the edge cases if it is consistent, right? So that's the issue. It was not consistent. So those are all the changes. Besides the bug fixes in the known list, I'm not really gonna go deep into that. So overall, there's no buffs, right? Oh, there's no buffs. This is what I don't like as well. There's no buffs here. So everything just you just have less options, right? In terms of like what you want to play progressively, right? Where are the crystal buffs, right? That card has been gutted for you for a long time. I definitely would love to see way more buffs generally. Like this is not, and especially with the frequency, right? You don't want to just give people less options. I will say, obviously, the being able to get more for Series 4, Series 5 cards will help. But it just means like more people will have Thanos Shuri if they want it. I still think Thanos will be playable, but I'd be scared if it wasn't, right? Like if Thanos wasn't playable, I'd be scared. So I still think it's gonna be playable. I still think Shuri didn't get touched at all, which is questionable to me. Like I don't think you have to play Shuri Red Skull, but it really feels like that's what they think is the real like the strongest way of playing the Shuri deck, and it might be true, right? Shuri Red Skull, at least in the ladder, was the strongest way. But I think Shuri in itself is just such a powerful card if done correctly. So it's kind of weird that they haven't touched the card. So I'm not the biggest fan of that personally. I think it's super off. She-Hulk change I'm happy with. Aero change I have to see, but it I wouldn't like it staying the same. So I guess I have to see, but I'm overall like, yeah, this is probably in the right direction. And then the Mystique absorbing Taskmaster change is better. It's just weird that Shang-Chi is now like so necessary, I would say, in deck building. The Knull, Morbius, Widow's Bite, those are like just not that super important, I would say. Maybe Knull for Mr. Negative, but I don't think that's gonna be like super meta. Quinjet Changes is important as well. I'm a little scared that we might be still in a very similar meta. That would be my fear overall. I do think more things will be viable. So at least that's good, right? Like straight up, more things will be viable. I think it's hard to argue that that's not going to be the case. And I don't think they've gutted. They haven't leadered anything. Well, maybe Aero. Maybe Aero. I'm not 100% sure though, but like there's theoretically that's possible. Huh. What's my overall feeling about this patch? I'm not like super hyped, I guess. I'm not like, "Oh my god, they fixed everything." Like that's not how my brain is reacting. It's more like I have to see, but that's how I always am, to be fair. So maybe that's just a me thing. But it is something. I just hope like it takes like I just want them to patch quicker, I guess. Like regardless of whatever they're doing, just do it twice a month instead of once a month. It takes too long to adjust to metas, I would say. So that's like my overall experience, because if it always takes like a month to make these changes, no buffs, that kind of thing, I'm not gonna be happy with the flow of it. So that's my takeaway. I do think more things will be played. So overall, that's my thoughts. Don't like ask me like tomorrow and be like, what's the meta? What's the broken deck? I don't know. I won't know. I'll know in like maybe a week or so, maybe a week and a half, something like that. But yeah, I mean this is a long one. Sorry about that. But yeah, these are my thoughts on the patch. I will have better analysis in a week. So other than that, I just want to get it out there. Hope you guys like it. Take care of yourselves. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Educated calling snap. Once you watch him, you won't go back. He'll teach you tomorrow, snap. Your skills will be improving.